Today's video idea is provided by Mr. Jeffrey Lowe. I hope you enjoy it, and hopefully everyone watching could also gain something from it. With the rising popularity of OLED panels, HDMI 2.1 specification, and their price finally coming down reasonably enough for the end customers, we see more and more people starting to use OLED panels, such as the LG CX or C1, also as their primary PC display device. And even though the experience can be quite breathtaking for anyone coming from an LCD panel, there are some caveats which we should talk about should you not have the latest NVIDIA Ampere or AMD RDNA 2 generation graphics card, as you will be limited to the old HDMI 2.0 specification and would not receive the full benefits of these amazing panels. In this video, we shall cover some of these caveats and also go over some odd resolutions you may wish to play around with to still get an enjoyable experience out of your display device. So without any further ado, let's begin. So what will you be giving up in terms of features should you connect a HDMI 2.0B capable GPU such as NVIDIA Turing series of GPUs to an HDMI 2.1 capable display such as the LG C1 for an example? The first and most obvious trade-off comes at the panel refresh rate and Chroma subsampling. In order for you to enjoy the crisp text at 4K, you would have to lock your panel's refresh rate down to just 60 Hz, as there simply isn't enough bandwidth available for 120 Hz at full RGB 444 Chroma mode. In truth, yes, you can actually get the panel to run at 4K 120 Hz, alas that would mean that you would be sacrificing the Chroma subsampling for 444 down to 420. Now, if that sounds like a bunch of gibberish to you, then don't worry, I shall leave an example RTINGS article in the description box below. In simplified essence though, where it matters the most is with the text clarity and color fringing. If you don't mind having your desktop running at 60 Hz, then it's perfectly fine to use 4K 60 at 444 on your desktop and 4K 120 at 420 Chroma whilst gaming, as you're very unlikely to notice those artifacts during a gameplay session. In regards to adaptive sync or variable refresh rate technologies, then it is a mixed bag. I do not have the last gen GPU available for myself to test this properly with, but as far as I've learned from the almighty internet, then the GPU with an HDMI 2.0B and ladder ports should be capable of VRR over HDMI and should work. But some have noticed that only Turing generation of GPUs received the VRR over HDMI at 4K treatment. HDMI's mess of a standards is a whole nother topic. But all in all, if you have an NVIDIA 20 series of GPUs or later, VRR should just work. Now regarding HDR, yeah, at 4K, it should work just fine on any HDMI 2.0B capable GPU, but once again, you will be limited to just 60 Hz. But what if you really just wanted the OLED display for its perfect blacks and are willing to pull back on the resolution a bit in order to enjoy a smooth gameplay on the panel with perfect blacks and VRR? That's exactly what we're going to be looking at next. And there are several ways of how you can make this work for yourself with a bit of compromise here and there. Furthermore, let's also presume that you're really accustomed to your current amazing 21:9 display and wish to get the same 3440 by 1440 resolution on the C1 in order to save up on some performance and get the benefits of the amazing contrast. No worries, we can do that easily by defining a custom resolution for ourselves. Now in this example, I am using an NVIDIA GPU, but the process on AMD's GPUs is pretty much the same. Firstly, we open up NVIDIA control panel. Select Change Resolution, click Customize, make sure to have Enable Resolutions Not Exposed by the Display checked, and then click Create Custom Resolution. Here we can simply slam in the desired width, height and refresh rate and select Test. Now if all works out, you can confirm the new resolution and make sure that it is checked in the Custom Resolutions list. And voila! We have 3440 by 1440 on LG C1. But how does this and other resolutions fare on the gigantic 48-inch OLED display? Is it too muddy looking? Is it worth it? Well, That is extremely subjective, and honestly I cannot tell you whether it looks good or not. The best I can do is to provide you with some examples of how it looks through the lens of my camera and with video stream compression in mind. But that will definitely not give you a perfect idea whether it is something that you would be willing to live with or not. So, Battlezone 98 Redux is a good example of an older game which would have very defined lines in odd resolutions, but at 3440 by 1440 or even 2560 by 1440 it looks absolutely gorgeous, and it really doesn't deter your experience a bit from what you would get with a native 4K resolution. There is one catch though, namely with Battlezone 98 Redux there is heavy 8x anti-aliasing being applied to the image, which masks a lot of the scaling artifacts you would all usually get from odd resolutions. With this in mind, let's try something different and without anti-aliasing applied, like Resident Evil 5. When comparing the native 4K to 3440 by 1440, the image does get noticeably blurrier, but not to an extent where I would find it too much to take personally. And again, this is without any sharpening or anti-aliasing applied to the image. The real magic happens exactly then, when you start playing around with sharpening and anti-aliasing techniques. For anti-aliasing, I use the in-game AA options, and for sharpening, I use AMD's CAS algorithm, or Contrast Adaptive Sharpening, through reshade. And well, the resulting image is absolutely stunning looking. It is worth noting that should your game not have AA options built in, then you can enforce it via your GPU drivers or even through reshade. So in most cases, the image quality which you can get with a scaled image can look very good indeed, given that you put in some thought and effort on your end. But I feel like not everyone is wishing to play older games on such displays, so I need to get in one more sample from a, let's say, more modern title before calling it a day, and I think Sherlock Holmes Chapter 1 would be a pretty suitable candidate, as that one tends to be a bit blurry when scaling is being used. As the game does not properly support 21:9 resolutions without manual intervention, I shall instead test out the regular 2560 by 1440 this time around, and a bit of good old 1080p whilst we're at it. And even with the native 4K resolution, the game is definitely not the sharpest looker and could use some added CAS. Dropping the resolution down to 1440p makes things even more blurrier, and this time even the sharpening pass does not help that much. 1080p is, well, just a blurry mess altogether, so although it might seem watchable in this video, I really wouldn't recommend it. Some game engines just behave differently, and that's where we have to draw the conclusion. In the end, the results for using various non-native resolutions will depend heavily on the game you're using them on. Some games will lend themselves nicely to small resolutions, and when adding a bit of AA and sharpening, will look absolutely stunning on the C1. I'm not saying that they would look as good as what you would get when running them at native 4K, no, but some instances can come darn close, given that the stars align and you agree to put in some effort from your end as well. Then there is also the games which might look like someone forgot to clean up after themselves using a bottle of Vaseline for God only knows what. And whatever you do, you cannot really get the image quality looking nearly as good as the native resolution on your panel. There is a trick to those instances though, where you could run them in the image scaling mode set to centered, which would leave you with a black border around your game area, but at least the image would remain nice and sharp. In fact, given the huge size of the 48-inch C1, this is probably something which you would want to do anyway for any strategy game you come across, which doesn't allow you to zoom out the viewport to a comfortable distance. In any case, would I recommend still going for an OLED display such as a C1 today, if all you have is an HDMI 2.0B capable GPU? On one hand, you do have the amazing image quality, but on another, you wouldn't be able to fully utilize the panel that you would be buying. Personally, I would wait a bit. This year alone, not only is LG releasing the new C2 line of TVs with the 42-inch panel offering more PPI, pixels per inch, and a more compact form factor, but also many other known brands are starting to release OLED monitors with DisplayPorts. ASUS is planning to come out with their PG42UQ, which is essentially the LG C2's panel with a DisplayPort, ASUS software, and a matte finish. At the same time, Dell is leveraging Samsung's Quantum Dot OLED technology in order to bring a 34-inch curved ultra-wide to consumers this year, which should have a 3440 by 1440 native resolution, running at 175 Hz. Speaking of Samsung, they are expanding their Odyssey lineup of monitors as well with the G8QNB, utilizing the same Samsung 34-inch QD OLED panel as the previously mentioned Dell, only with Samsung software on it. There are even more OLED monitors coming in the pipeline this year, so whatever you decide to do, I would not hurry with pulling a trigger on something which would be a compromise for my needs, as the price of these TVs and monitors is still relatively high, and it will leave a sour taste in your mouth should you not get everything you were hoping for. Again, personally, I would just love the LG C2 42-inch or the 48-inch with a DisplayPort connector, as I do utilize the Smart TV functionality in my current setup from time to time, and find the glossy panel just looking better color and depth-wise, given that I have good light control in the room. But this is just me, and I know that this precise scenario probably just ain't happening. Alas, if you are specifically looking for an OLED replacement for your 34-inch ultra-wide, then rejoice, as there will be more options for you later on this year without the need to over-encumber your desk with a huge 48-inch TV. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this bit of OLED content. Now, I'm going to make a follow-up video for the longevity of my current C1 soon, as I've had it for about a year now, working full-time, 8 to 12 hours a day, for both development work and gaming. Does it inhibit any image quality degradation, image retention, or dead pixels? Stay tuned to find out. In any case, I would like to wish you a happy rest of your day, whenever, wherever you are. Bye-bye.